Hello, Something Guys and Gals, this is Something Guy 912. I'm still neck deep into working on the Tales from the Borderlands project, and have currently finished the episode 2 section of it. With that, I figured that I could take some time off that to provide more of the regular and less intensive content that I've made. Again, if you're not up to speed, I go through these maps to break down their architecture in terms of how realistic they would be instead of whether they are good for gameplay. And Half-Life 2 has been the main vehicle of which to tackle this subject. Following up from the first map of Water Hazard is of course the second, so let's not delay any longer and get to it. Alright, and now we are in D1_Canals07. Now obviously with the map transition, there are certain things from the prior map that have essentially been copy-pasted in here, so I'm just going to bring it up again for the sake of consistency. We have these dock planks that again do not align with the landscape here. That was the last thing I brought up from the last map, and now it's the first thing I bring up of this map. Not to mention these signal switches not being at the same level of these dock assets. You know, I did see comments on the last video remarking that maybe these were put here after the Combine took over, but I really doubt that the Combine would be so concerned with putting signs like this here. Or any infrastructure that was like human made rather than infrastructure that was more Combine oriented. So we go out here into this broken catwalk with this CP officer that's shooting down on you, and he's on this platform, which said platform only exists for the sake of you being able to ram into it with the airboat, because otherwise it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for this to be here, as opposed to the Combine officer just being on the catwalk here anyway. And not to mention, I'm not really sure how this section is being held up. I mean, sure, you got this concrete here, but I feel like this would be kind of, I don't know, swaying down a little bit, if you ask me. And then not to mention, this section of the catwalk leads into a dead end, just to this wall. And interestingly, it's another one of those, like, orange-tipped, buildings from, like, the canal levels earlier. I wonder if that was just an asset that they kind of just slapped in whenever they needed to. So, moving on. We go into the first canal lock of the level. And this canal lock has a catwalk up here that has a stairway, or I guess it's actually a railing, or a ramp, that does not finish on the other side. In fact, it kind of just randomly peters out, which is kind of weird to me. I mean, sure, the other side doesn't really have much to it since there's no doors or fence gates or whatever, and there's going to be more to this yard area that we can discuss, but it's just still a little bit odd that it would just peter out like that and not be, like, equally symmetrical on both ways. Not to mention that you have the little walkway here that you can jump out of the airboat from, and you have these weird, like, curved edges along the walkway. I don't know why those are there. Like, I don't know if that's for structural integrity, but I highly doubt it. So we'll go up here, and we will go into the otherwise known as the Combine outpost. Not much to say in here. There are the interrogation rooms, although these are obviously supply closets that have been retrofitted into interrogation rooms. And in this one, we see a familiar texture. It's the height lines from the first map of the game, and it's actually put into a place that actually makes a lot more sense, as opposed to where it was when you first meet Marnie, where it was like awkwardly near some other like geometry that would make it kind of hard to take a mug shot of someone, hypothetically speaking. And then in this one, obviously, it's just a supply closet. But obviously, these two rooms were obviously supply closets that have been turned into interrogation rooms. And then we have this shelving here that is a little bit perched a little too high, because I'm not sure how you would, like, why you would perch stuff up this high. I mean, maybe there's, like, a cohesive reason to it, like, maybe they have, like, a step ladder or something, but, like, who knows? And then, you know, aligning with these APCs are garage doors, although I'm putting garage doors in quotations because I don't think these are garage doors. They're just basically solid assets, solid just textures, because on either side of them, this side, for example, goes nowhere, but it could go somewhere. But the other side of this garage door leads to a set of landscape geometry that would just directly collide with it. And not to mention, if you notice, how do you expect these garage doors to open? Because there's not like a little ramp thing to green them into. So again, they're basically, they might as well just be a solid mesh for all they're concerned. So moving on, we go into what is basically the area where you can, where the CP officer will spawn in. Okay, I gotta take care of these guys. They're really loud. Okay. I don't like how loud they are in the recording. This is something that has been brought up by other people that have been, like, you know, have carved through the game. But if you go behind where the manhags spawn, you can clearly see they're not textured on the other side here. And I'm pretty sure you can easily get up here if you just crouch jump onto this and then crouch jump here. So, yeah. Not to mention, too, this outpost also, interestingly enough, has realistic vents, like this vent here and this vent here. So, one of the few times that realistic air vents are textured in a map, as opposed to those human-like ones that we've been going through so far. So we go out this door, and we're immediately faced with a turret nest. Now, this is odd architecture, again, in relation to NPC placement, because we went through this outpost on its main side. And keep in mind, this CP officer that is guarding this side is essentially guarding a dead end, as we will come to find out. So wouldn't it make more sense, like, logistically speaking, for this nest to be on the other side here? Like, obviously, gameplay-wise, it wouldn't be as, like, thrilling. I don't know why it would be placed over here. If, like, this outpost, like, would assume to have, like, Combine from the inside of this outpost. So, we'll keep moving on. Into the generator room, where there's more CP officers just waiting to get killed and whatnot. And this generator room's a little bit of a little bit messy, a little bit convoluted, because you have this catwalk walk railing with these stairs that go down here and up here, but I don't see why it wouldn't be designed in a way to have the railings be, like, intertwined between here on these doors, and then just have the normal set of stairs. But that might have something to do with the pipes, but also the pipes themselves are kind of oddly designed, like with it like directly cutting into the walkway like this. And I don't know if that would be something that would tangibly make sense, but maybe that was the only way that you could get the pipes to flow through in this manner. You know, now I'm noticing that the texture up here is just, like, mattress texture for some reason, or like a padded cell. That's very odd. I don't know if that is a texture mess up, or if that actually is what it looks like in the base game. It's very odd. So, going out here, we obviously have the door to the lock door, to the canal lock doors, obviously malfunctioning, so you have to improvise and shoot these barrels to bring these girders down. And if you hadn't noticed, as I hadn't really paid much mind to, is the texture, the contraption, so to speak, that is holding these girders is very, very poorly textured. And you can even see parts of it are just floating in air. Like, this part, like, they're not, like, there's no, like, alignment at all. If you pay enough attention to it. And obviously, there's no physics to it at all. So, like, if I shoot this, right, and we look, see, the contraption itself does not move at all. It's just the ropes that are doing all the work. And then obviously doing that, we'll send in more CP officers, but we don't need to bother with that because we're just going back the way we came. So we'll just go out from the canal lock doors. Now, before we exit out here, you'll notice that there's a bit of a frivolous use of more of these dock plank assets. Some places it might make sense, like here maybe, here not so much, and then you just have one up here, just way up here, which does not make at all any sense considering like what we are to assume about the general water level of this area. And then more to the point, there's some mesh doors outside of bounds here, but these mesh doors would not align at all with the interior of the generator room, as going in, well, I guess maybe this side could actually be cohesive to something, but it is a little bit tight. I think, let's see if I can, I think these are slightly colliding in with the wall of this generator room, but yeah, I don't think they're probably going to much, but besides the point. And then over to the right here, we have these pipes, but the pipes, if you notice, are designed in a way that arcs upward to imply that water actually goes out from these pipes as opposed to going in, because I did get a few comments on the last video as well that a lot of the pipes that I was criticizing in terms of their level might be pipes that are like shooting out stuff from other reservoirs as opposed to being used to fill in from the canal itself. It's just my problem with that is that the pipes don't seem to be designed in a way to make it seem as though it's supposed to flow out, whereas this one, it is supposed to be designed as though to flow out into the canal as opposed to the canal filling up those pipes. And as we move on, before we come to the bridge, we have these small pieces of concrete that are kind of jutting up from the base ground level. I'm not sure if there is a cohesive reason for this to be designed, although I'm pretty sure there probably are canal areas, like the Los Angeles River, that has architecture like this, I believe, depending on the water level. So it's not completely out of place, but it could be a little bit odd. And then underneath this bridge, we obviously come down to this huge ramp, and then the APCs start shooting at us. And if you notice, before we jump off, the ramp is actually a small set of stairs before it turns into a ramp. I don't know why this is done, but maybe it's just to make it so the airboat absolutely will go over onto the ramp, or maybe gain more speed that way. So moving on, we come across a few more bridges, and these bridges are not exactly well textured. In fact, interestingly enough, the railings are not textured on both sides. They only show up on either side. So here, you can see the railings are textured here, but if I go on the other side, there's no railing there, and now there's a railing here. So it's like it's almost like a optical illusion almost that these are here in that manner. As far as these being like roads, like I could believe that they are. I mean, obviously they're not the most textured, but like you could like believe that somebody could drive on this if it had a little bit more texture to it. So, moving on, we got more of these bridges. Again, same problem as these bridges, with them only texturing a guardrail on one side, depending on what angle you're at. And I'm assuming that probably was just to save processing speed, considering this is a 2004 game. Then we have another set. Basically same deal, although this one's a bit curious because there is an actual road to it, but the road is designed in such a way that there is no way that it coincides at all with this bridge because of its width and the angle that's like poking out from. You can even see part of the like fake railing like jutting right into the middle of the road. And then not to mention, this road eventually peters off into the edge of this this landscape here. So obviously, this is not for discerning eyes like mine in this moment. And then over here we have this bridge asset. Although I'm pretty sure this bridge asset probably does not coincide at all with anything in regards to the road. In fact, considering this bridge road would be jutting into this transmitter, or I don't know, electric tower or whatever, yeah, it probably stands to reason. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So we have this whole section again to dodge an APC's rockets. You gotta avoid them and whatever. There's a lambda cache at the end here. There's not really anything out of the ordinary here, although I do think this is kind of interesting that this is like the only time that there is a texture mesh like this, because usually these kinds of texture meshes are for like underpasses to keep homeless people from trying to squat in under overpasses. And then over here you obviously have the cars that light the ground filled with water on fire, which is a little bit nonsensical, but if I'm going to be extremely generous, I think what is supposed to be conveyed here is the two trucks that are broken down here, especially the one with the tanker, probably has filled the water with a small amount of oil that is insoluble, so it's like standing above the surface of the water. That's usually how like oceans can be lit on fire as a result of oil that cannot dissolve properly in water this way. So it's not completely out of the equation, although I think if you saw it, like the way that it's lit is that CP officer throws one of those gas barrels, explosive barrels down here, and it just lights on fire. So you have to jump across on this end here, and we have another set of these rails that doesn't really make a lot of sense, not to mention only textured on one side, and not even more to the point, the railings like go farther out than they really need to. Like, you'd think there'd be an extra set of rails here rather than just jutting into a portion of the concrete that would be for like road travel, hypothetically. And then we have this section here where a few cars get like flown out this way, and this whole section is a little bit of an oddity because of, again, not only just a little bit of the odd placement of certain things, but also just the singular use of a certain asset. So we have these sets of I don't know what you would call them, like crisscross fences that are only in this section of the game. I'm pretty sure they're not used in any other part of the game, but you know, I'll correct myself if I'm wrong in future maps, but these are the only times that they are present here. Not to mention that they are covered by these weird cover things, which I'm not sure they're supposed to be an additional set of docks because they're not textured up here, so I don't know what they're supposed to convey. But they would still contravene these dock assets on the other side that are angled downward. I mean, they probably were supposed to be a lot more like straight up, like flush against this railing here, but then comes the question why there's a railing that's going against what should be a dock that you can go into. And obviously this covered area is just only here for the sake of being able to go here relatively safe from getting hit by the APC rockets, instead of having to deal with the cars and whatnot. So we fly down here, and then we are nearing the end of this map. Although there is one more thing we have to bring up, which is again these inexplicable just open gaps in the tunnels. And as I've said before about these gaps, they probably would have a mesh if the purpose of them being here is to let rain fall into the tunnel here of this canal. Although these gaps are considerably smaller than the ones that we've seen in the prior maps. And with that, that is it for D1_canals_07. And that was that for D1_canals_07. And as for future odd architecture maps are concerned, again, they'll be put on the back burner so I can refocus on this project, as I don't want to waste any more time than I need to. Although, you may discover other videos on this channel that have nothing to do with odd architecture and this project in future, if the time allots for it.